Logan Pierce was a man who believed he had seen it all: power, money, betrayal. But nothing prepared him for the truth hidden behind 4 black credit cards. When he set out to test the women around him, he expected greed and ambition. What he never expected was the quiet defiance of his housekeeper, Nora, whose choices would shatter his cynicism and drag him into a world of raw humanity he had long forgotten. From that moment on, Logan's life was no longer about wealth. It was about a discovery that would change everything. Logan Pierce slammed his tailored blazer onto the leather couch, the sound echoing through the glass-walled penthouse overlooking Denver's skyline. His jaw clenched as he muttered, "I can't take it anymore." Carter Hale, his personal assistant of 8 years, leaned casually against the marble counter, arms folded. He had seen Logan furious before: corporate boardroom battles, billion-dollar negotiations, but never quite like this. "What happened this time?" Carter asked, tone even. Logan exhaled sharply, pacing like a caged lion. "She raised a glass of champagne, toasted to us getting back together, and then, get this, snapped a selfie with the dessert like I was some trophy investment. Am I a man, Carter, or a stock climbing on the market?" "It was just dinner," Carter reminded him. "Dinner?" Logan snapped, stopping mid-stride. "She told me she missed me and my helicopter in the same sentence. Nobody sees me anymore. They only see the money." His voice cracked in frustration, rare for a man who normally carried his wealth like armor. Carter stayed silent. He knew better than to argue. Then, with a sudden gleam in his eye, Logan froze. "No, that's it. I'm done with the fake smiles, done with the hidden agendas. I'll run my own experiment." Carter's brows furrowed. "And experiment, Logan? Every time you use that tone, the stock market trembles or somebody ends up crying." "This will be different," Logan insisted, voice low but charged. "I'm giving 4 women unlimited black credit cards. No rules, no limits. Just 3 days of freedom, and then I'll see who they really are." Carter blinked. "You're seriously going to hand out unlimited cards like candy? That's not an experiment, it's a recipe for disaster." But Logan's mind was already racing. Bria Summers, of course. She'll think it's a grand gesture. Then Tessa Monroe, my sharp assistant, always bragging. She knows strategy. Let's test that outside the office. And Sloane Vesper. She thrives on appearances, elegance, manipulation. I want to see what she does when there's no ceiling." He paused. His eyes softened, almost reluctantly. "And Nora Bennett." Carter straightened, a caught off guard. "Nora? Your housekeeper?" Logan's lips curved. "Yes, the one who hums off-key while scrubbing the floors. The one who once threatened me with a wooden spoon because I stirred her risotto." "Exactly," Carter said dryly. "The one who has never once asked you for anything. The only sane person in this penthouse. And you want to hand her a weapon of mass temptation." "Precisely. She's the only one I've never been able to read. I want to know what she'll do with power." Carter shook his head slowly. "Logan, this isn't bold. This is reckless." But the next morning, the black envelopes were already on the mahogany desk, names written in silver ink, like a king plotting a chessboard. Brielle was first. She strolled in wearing a designer dress that screamed, "Watch me," her heels clicking across the marble. Logan handed her the envelope with an almost casual smile. "Is this a breakup present or a reconciliation bribe?" she teased. "Neither," Logan replied. "It's yours for 3 days. No limit." Her lips curved into a self-satisfied grin. "Finally admitting I'm priceless, huh?" She left with the card gleaming between her manicured fingers. Tessa Monroe arrived next, crisp, blazer-sharp posture, tablet in hand, as if she was already late to a board meeting. She raised an eyebrow at the envelope. "You're not dying, are you?" "Not yet," Logan replied dryly. "Consider it a gift. 3 days. Use it however you see fit." She nodded, hiding ambition behind professionalism and left with quiet determination. Then came Sloane Vesper, draped in couture like a magazine cover, sunglasses indoors, though it was barely 10 a.m. She eyed the card with suspicion. "Some kind of trick, Logan?" "Not at all," he said smoothly. 3 days, spend it however you like." Her smirk revealed she already had a plan. Finally, Nora Bennett entered not through the front door but from the side hallway, balancing a dish towel over her shoulder and a bowl of raw dough in their hands. "Boss, that oven's making noises again. Sounds like it's coughing," she said matter-of-factly. Logan handed her the black envelope discreetly. She frowned. "You're firing me?" "No, it's a gift." She opened the envelope slowly, eyes widening at the sleek card. "You're feeling okay? Because yesterday I gave you banana bread and it was burnt. Badly burnt. Take it, Nora. 3 days. Use it however you want." She looked at him as if he had just asked her to command NASA. "Seriously, I can buy anything?" "Anything." Hours later, Logan sat with a glass of whiskey in hand, watching Carter scroll through the first wave of transactions. 3 helicopter rentals, Carter said flatly, a $15,000 gown, bookings at the Mile High Lounge, and a gala planner already secured. Logan smirked. Predictable. "And Nora?" Carter hesitated, glancing down at the tablet. "Groceries, rice, paint, diapers, secondhand toys. And," Carter paused, almost incredulous, 200 hot dogs. Logan set down his glass, turning slowly. "Hot dogs. 200? For a long moment, the billionaire said nothing, then a slow smile spread across his face. "Now that," he murmured, "is something I didn't see coming." And deep down, Logan Pierce felt a spark of curiosity he hadn't felt in years, the kind that could change everything. Do you think Nora's choice with the credit card shows her true heart? Yes or no? Logan Pierce couldn't get the transactions out of his mind. Helicopters, designer gowns, and gala planners were exactly what he expected from Brielle, Tessa, and Sloane. But Nora Bennett, groceries, toys, paint, diapers, and 200 hot dogs? That was something altogether different. By the next afternoon, he had reached the point where he couldn't sit still. Curiosity gnawed at him like a restless animal. He told Carter he needed the address of the van Nora had rented, and before long, he was driving a black SUV through a part of Denver he had rarely set foot in. The streets shifted from glass towers and luxury shops to small, modest houses with trimmed lawns and kids' bicycles left on porches. It felt like a different world entirely. At the end of a quiet block, Logan spotted a small brick building with a weathered sign that read, "Riverside Haven Children's Home." Parked out front was the van, its back doors open. And there was Nora, wearing jeans and an old t-shirt, her hair tied back in a messy bun. She moved back and forth, carrying colorful boxes inside with an energy that made the air around her feel alive. Logan leaned against the SUV for a moment, watching her. He could hear her laugh, even from across the street, a sound unpolished but genuine. His chest tightened in a way he hadn't expected. After several minutes, he decided he couldn't just stand there anymore. He crossed the street and stepped inside. At the front desk, an older woman looked up. "Hello? Can I help you?" "Logan Pierce," he said, offering a hand. "I heard about the wonderful work you do here. I'd like to take a look." The woman smiled warmly. "I'm Helen Whitaker, director of Riverside Haven. We're only able to do what we do because of generous people like Nora. She's been a blessing." Logan blinked. "Nora? A blessing?" Helen nodded. "Yes, she's here almost every week. And today, thanks to her, the children are having a special party." Intrigued, Logan followed Helen through the hallway until the sound of laughter spilled out into a wide courtyard. What he saw made him pause in his tracks. There were balloons tied to trees, long tables covered in bright paper, and children running in every direction. And right in the middle of the chaos was Nora, dressed in a clown costume, complete with oversized shoes and a red rubber nose. She was trying, unsuccessfully, to twist balloons into animals. And when one popped loudly in her hands, she laughed just as hard as the children did. Logan leaned against a tree, unable to take his eyes off her. He had seen people fight for his attention, his wealth, his influence, but he had never seen someone give so freely of themselves, for nothing in return. Nora knelt beside a little girl who had scraped her knee, pulling out a colorful bandage from her bag. "This one's magic," Nora whispered. "It makes you heal faster, but only if you do 3 hops after I put it on." The girl giggled through her tears and jumped 3 times, suddenly convinced she was invincible. Something inside Logan cracked open. He wasn't sure if it was admiration, guilt, or something much deeper. For the first time in years, he felt like he was seeing what real humanity looked like. After a while, Nora spotted him. She froze mid-step, her red nose dangling around her neck. "Mr. Pierce, what are you doing here?" Logan scrambled for an explanation. "I heard about the party and wanted to contribute." She raised an eyebrow. "Heard about it? From who?" "I have contacts in charity organizations." He lied, though not very convincingly. Nora studied him, suspicion in her eyes, but then she sighed. "Well, since you're here, you can help me. I've got 200 hot dogs to serve and only 2 hands." Logan laughed nervously. 200? Better get moving, boss. Those kids eat faster than a Wall Street trader's. Moments later, Logan found himself behind a grill fumbling with spatulas while Nora managed the chaos with ease. He dropped half the sausages, stained his expensive shirt with ketchup, and nearly set a pile of buns on fire. Nora shook her head. "You ever thought about a career in demolition? Because cooking clearly isn't your strength." The children, though, loved him. They bombarded him with questions, tugged on his sleeves, and handed him crayon drawings. "Are you really rich?" a boy named Leo asked. "A little," Logan replied cautiously. "Can you buy a dragon?" "There are no real dragons," Logan said, smiling. "Yes, there are," Leo insisted. "Nora said she's seen one." Nora winked, pretending not to hear. By the end of the day, Logan was exhausted, but strangely content. He helped Nora clean up, burst balloons, and stack empty plates. Finally, he asked, "Why do you do all this? Spending your time here, using your own money?" Nora shrugged. "Because someone has to, and because these kids deserve to smile. I don't get paid, but I get the best reward, moments like today." Logan looked at her, and for the first time, he couldn't think of a single clever comeback. He just felt the tightness in his chest grow heavier. That night, back in the penthouse, Logan couldn't stop replaying the images in his mind. Nora's laugh, her care with the children, the way she didn't even hesitate to spend the money on others. It haunted him in a good way. The following afternoon, he found her in the kitchen, scrubbing a pan while humming her usual off-key tune. "Nora," he said, stepping closer, "how about we get some coffee somewhere, outside?" She blinked at him. "Coffee with you? Are you having a midlife crisis?" "Maybe, but I'd like you to join me." She looked down at her jeans, stained with cleaning products, and sighed. "I don't exactly own fancy clothes." "You don't need them. You're perfect as you are." 20 minutes later, they were sitting in a small cafe downtown, far from the polished restaurants where Logan usually dined. Nora sipped her coffee and smirked. "So this is what rich people coffee tastes like." "Pretty much the same as the bakery on the corner." "That's the point," Logan said with a small smile. "Normal. Simple." For a moment, they just sat there, 2 people from completely different worlds, finding common ground over a cup of coffee. And Logan realized that maybe, just maybe, this was the most extraordinary experiment of his life. What about you? Do you think Logan's curiosity about Nora will grow into something more than admiration? Yes or no? Logan Pierce had always prided himself on control. Deals, negotiations, mergers, everything in his world ran on precision. But in the weeks after that coffee with Nora Bennett, his carefully managed life felt like it had slipped out of his grasp. She had become a quiet presence in his mind, haunting him not with demands or ambition, but with her simplicity, her laughter, her ability to make children feel like they mattered. Every time he returned to the penthouse, he found himself listening for her off-key humming in the kitchen. And when she wasn't there, the silence felt heavier than any boardroom defeat. The experiment was supposed to expose motives, to confirm what Logan already believed, that people orbit him for his wealth. Brielle Summers proved him right the moment she showed up at a gala in a glittering gown worth more than most families' yearly rent, snapping photos for her social media. Tessa Monroe was no different. She presented spreadsheets showing how she invested the card in a self-development retreat, pitching it as though Logan were her client. And Sloane Vesper? She organized a gala at the Colorado Convention Center, not to raise money for anyone else, but to elevate her own image among Denver's elite. The night of that gala was a turning point. Logan entered in his tailored tux, Carter by his side, and watched Sloane glide toward him like she owned the night. "Darling, this is all thanks to you," she purred, gesturing at the glittering room. But Logan's attention drifted almost immediately when he saw Nora standing near the back in a simple navy dress, her hair swept into a loose bun. She wasn't laughing or playing the part of society's darling. She was speaking to an older donor, showing him pictures of the children at Riverside Haven. She wasn't performing. She was persuading with sincerity, her eyes bright with passion. Logan excused himself from Sloane and walked toward Nora. "You came," he said, surprised. "I almost didn't," Nora admitted, "but Helen thought it would be good for the kids if I helped represent Riverside Haven." And then the unexpected happened. Midway through the gala, as waiters carried trays of champagne, someone deliberately bumped into Nora, sending an entire glass down her dress. The crowd gasped. Brielle smirked from the corner. Tessa pretended not to notice. For a moment, Nora stood frozen, humiliated, cheeks burning. Before she could escape, Logan stepped forward, shrugged off his tuxedo jacket, and draped it over her shoulders. "The most important person in this room isn't the one wearing the most expensive gown," he said loudly enough for those nearby to hear. "It's the one who came here to make sure children get a future." The silence that followed was heavy, but when Nora glanced up at him, gratitude softened her eyes. From that night, whispers began. Some claimed Nora was manipulating Logan. Others said Logan had finally lost his mind, choosing a housekeeper over Denver's most powerful women. But Logan didn't care. For the first time in years, he felt like he had found something real. The backlash came swiftly. Days later, a scandal erupted when documents circulated accusing Nora of embezzling funds from Riverside Haven. Photos of her using the black card were taken out of context, twisted into a story of greed. Headlines splashed across local news. "Billionaire's housekeeper caught in charity scandal." Investors called Logan, demanding explanations. Carter tried to intervene, urging Logan to let the storm pass. But doubt crept in where trust had started to grow. When Logan confronted her, Nora's eyes filled with hurt. "After everything you've seen, you really think I'd steal from those kids?" I don't know what to think," he admitted. That was the moment she left. She packed her things quietly, left her apron folded neatly on the counter, and walked out of the penthouse without looking back. The silence that followed was unbearable, but Logan couldn't shake what he had seen. At Riverside Haven, couldn't erase the memory of Nora dressed as a clown, holding a child's hand, her face lit with unfiltered joy. He launched his own investigation and, with Carter's help, uncovered the truth. It was Brielle and Tessa who had orchestrated the smear, pooling resources to ruin Nora and regain their hold on Logan. Armed with proof, Logan stormed into a meeting of investors at the Mile High Lounge. "This woman you accuse," he said, holding up the evidence, is the reason children in this city have food and shelter. The liars are not the ones caring for orphans. They're the ones standing in this room, hiding behind designer dresses and power plays. The fallout was swift. Brielle and Tessa were disgraced, their reputations collapsing in hours. Sloane quietly slipped out of sight, unwilling to take the blow publicly. But Logan's mind wasn't on revenge. He drove straight to Riverside Haven. The children swarmed him the moment he entered, tugging at his sleeves, begging for stories. And then he saw Nora, kneeling on the floor, helping a boy with his homework. She looked up, and the silence between them said more than any speech could. "I was wrong," he said quietly, "and I'm sorry." Nora studied him for a long moment. Then she asked, "Do you believe me now?" "I don't just believe you," Logan said, his voice cracked. "I want to stand beside you, not as your boss, not as your experiment, but as someone who finally understands what it means to give." Her eyes glistened, and for the first time, she let herself smile. Months later, the penthouse was no longer a fortress of silence. Children from Riverside Haven visited every weekend, their laughter echoing through rooms once empty. Logan and Nora worked together to expand the home into a foundation that touched lives across Denver. Carter often joked that Logan had finally found his most profitable investment, not in stocks or real estate, but in love. On a summer afternoon, under a canopy of string lights in the courtyard of Riverside Haven, Logan and Nora exchanged vows. The children stood around them as a makeshift choir, their voices off-key but filled with joy. There was no designer spectacle, no grand gestures, just something rare and priceless: honesty, forgiveness, and love. And for the first time in his life, Logan Pierce felt like he wasn't alone at the top. He was home. What about you? Do you think Logan truly deserved Nora's forgiveness after doubting her? If this story touched you, comment 100 down below so I know you stayed with it until the end. Tell me which country you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story traveled. And if you believe more people should hear stories like this, please share this video with your friends and family.